Welcome to another edition of the St. Andrews Knights Football Report with Coach Robert Curtin. I'm Mark Plemmons. And Coach, another big football game and another really good football team that you played on Saturday evening up at Davidson. The score is not something we're not even going to mention the score, but let's talk
Appreciate
about
that.
some. Yeah, it was tough. We were trying to broadcast an audio version that night, and sometimes they get out of hand when you play a really good team. But there were positives that you can take from that, and I guess we can start first with your quarterback, Darius Holly. What was a 75-yard touchdown run, and did some really good things for you.
Oh yeah, Darius had a great game. Managed the clock well, managed the game well, had that great big run. Showed us that he really does have that 4.3, 4.4 speed, and he's not afraid to take a hit. And in our offense, you've got in the game of football, you got to be willing to absorb some hits. And I really liked the way he understood our game plan to manage the clock. And I think if you look at the first quarter, when we had our ones and their ones, the score was still 14-0, but you could really see us playing and scrapping, and they had to fight for everything. And of course, we were transitioning that, a very heavy run oriented game, and he did some really wonderful things for us and then we're really pleased. And we liked when Dylan came in and got a little exposure, a little bit more exposure at the end. And we're going to keep working all three of them guys.
Coach, and I know one of the things you can take out of that, you've established who your running backs are and kind of a little bit of a pecking order there.
Yes, we sure did. We are very, very fond of Najee Seagraves and Kayvon Daniels. They had great games. Kayvon averaged 3.7 or 3.9 yards per carry. Kayvon was a little bit less than that, but we put him in different situations. But we've also got we found some other guys that are willing to go in there and mix it up and block. But we have a young man by the name of Dalen Spruill who we're going to see a little bit more, and Chris Warren and Brandon Basnight. So as we transition to a more and more heavy run game, this was the perfect team to test our grit. That's not what our end state are. Obviously, our end state was to go compete and win a football game, but it was nice to see guys that will play in the worst of conditions as well as the best of conditions. There was some rough conditions on Saturday, and I'm not talking weather or anything. I'm just talking about the opponent.
No, I understand, Coach, that when you have a tough opponent, it makes things even tougher. Special teams, solid. No kick return. No return yardage on punts.
No, absolutely, sir. Again, Coach Mike McClure, obviously he played at Coastal. He's coached high school football all around North Carolina. Last stop was the head coach at Southern Lee, and he's he's not a lot of fluff. He's not a lot of fanfare. He is just very disciplined coach, and he gets the most out of those guys. And he takes it personal when his defensive backs or his special teams doesn't go the way he thinks they should, and he doesn't take it out on the young men. He tries to solve problems. He's a problem solver. And I was really proud of the way those guys on special teams handled things. They hit their landmarks like we talked about last week. They ran at full speed, and they were almost there as the punt or the kick was coming down, the kickoff. And so it's nice to see that level of progress. And, I tell you, the whole special teams, with the exception of one or two guys, is young. So now that they're getting it and they're seeing those successes, that really bodes well, especially against a tough opponent in Davidson. And you look what those guys did to us last year on kickoff return and punt return with their speed. And so we were able to, Coach McClure was able to mitigate that with just a really, really solid game plan.
Now, Coach, Cook with the punts, I think nearly every kick he had was 38 or 39. I think maybe a 42-yarder. The shortest kick he had hit inside the 15 and kicked the wrong direction. So I think looked really good in punting the football.
I'm not sure there isn't much Aronson Cook can't do. I'm going to test his cooking skills next, but his ability to barbecue. But yeah, he's quite an athlete, quite a leader of the program. We changed his role a little bit because we asked him to block a little bit more than normal. But when we needed him, he flipped the field for us. If you look at the way the field was flipped for us, he really made Davidson have to go from at least their 30, 25, 35-yard line and march the entire field. And that's very, very big for us. So, and then, at the end of the game, we put in, Diego Barahona, and he was out there at about 32 yards. And so he was doing well too. So it's nice to get him some reps as well. But boy, that Cook, he's a special kind of young man.
He's a player, Coach. He's a player no matter what you ask him to do. Let's talk about players of the week. You've got the stats in front of you, I think, so maybe you can run down a couple things for us.
I mean, we obviously we finally crested the 100-yard mark in our run game against an incredibly tough Division I football program. But really, it's Heath Lavarius Lewis is our player of the game. He was our defensive back, our safety. And he had 12 tackles, 1 for a loss, in on a lot of the special teams, in on a lot of the other plays. Again, he's always been one of those leaders in the backfield. I think now we're starting to see that really mature now as we head into Game 5. But yeah, we're really really appreciate Lavarius Heath Lewis and what he brings to the table, not only athletically and physically, but the way I hear him talking to the other young men on the team. Hey guys, we need to be here. Hey, roll. Those are things that are going to help us as we roll into conference play here this week.
Coach, really, really outstanding job there. As far as one more thing before we move on to Bluefield this week, but
yes, sir.
I thought that we saw some guys flying around. Maybe they weren't in the original spot they needed to be to begin, but they were flying to get there. The speed was there. I think of one play where Rice chased down a player from behind, and it wasn't his man, but I think we wound up forcing a field goal attempt on that drive. That doesn't happen if he doesn't run. I think he ran 50 yards to get to the kid.
Yes, sir. We harp on the backside pursuit drill, and I told you last week we're going to move some people out of some positions that can help us. And, and we might move. And that was Jalin Rice. He's a Division I transfer out of Louisiana Monroe that came back to be close to home so he could be near his parents. And we're really blessed to have him. But, he's got a 4.2 speed. And we put him at corner. And he went, like you said, he went far side of the field. And he ran that guy down on backside pursuit, forced a field goal, which was wide. And then, we had some other shenanigans go on, and it gave them, the opportunity to get a first down. But it's those types of plays by Jamil and some other guys. Like we put Devin Resch at outside linebacker. He's usually a split end or a tight end, if you will. And putting speed in positions where it needs to be with athletes that are really, you want it too deep at a certain position, you don't want that guy sitting on a bench. And that guy doesn't want to sit on a bench. And if we can coach him up and teach him up to play a little bit different. Now, in the case of Jamil, sir, the deal with him is he played both ways in high school. And that's probably why he was recruited. So, he's 6'4", 210, 15 pounds, runs a 4.2. But he also played, some defensive back. And we said, hey, Jamil, we really need you here. And he said, yes, sir. He said, I'll go ahead and do this, and I'll get out there. And he did. And he did a great job. He did a phenomenal job.
Coach, now we move on to Bluefield. This is a competitive game. This is a game where you go out on the field and you have every confidence that you can go out there and win. And talk about the difference there, and talk about the keys coming in for the Knights.
Well, the mental prep by the young men is going to be completely different. They when you feel like you have an opportunity to be successful, there's that extra drive. Very few people have that extra drive when their back's against the wall. It's that fight or flight mentality. And not that everybody is going to flee, but it takes a special person to go, hey, I'm going against this Division I team, And, come hell or high water, I'm going to give them everything I got. Right? That's a special thing, a special mind. And we got to teach that. We got to mentor that in our young guys. But Bluefield definitely is a game we think we can compete in. We think we can win. We are, some of the keys to success, and you've heard me say this a lot, but it is keep that high-powered offense off the field. That young man, that quarterback is throwing for 650 yards a game. And he's doing it. I mean, he's doing it against, Lindsey Wilson and Bethel and teams like that. But he's still getting his points. So now if we can, if our offense can, not only manage the clock like they did the first half against I should say the first and third quarters against Davidson, we can get back to that level of management and put the points on the board. I think Davidson's a little bit better defense than we're going to see at Bluefield. I think we keep them off the field. They're going to get theirs, and now we got to mitigate it. So that's the one key is number one, keep our offense on the field as much as possible. Run the ball, pass the ball, do what it takes to move the chains. And, defensively, our defensive backs have been in good positions. It's just from time to time they've been out-athleted and really what I'd like to say is they've been out-experienced. If I'm there, but I just jump and high point at the wrong time or something, that is about repetition. That is about understanding the game and the flow of the play. But I think we're going to see today at practice, our lactic acid practice, I like to call it. We're going to see some kids flying around, sort of like we saw Jameel doing and Jaden Stevens doing and Devin Resch on defense. I think you're going to see a renewed sense of urgency. We're not going to just be licking our wounds.
Coach, that's a good thing to hear. I know one thing, when you go on the road, you're always going to get punched in the mouth at some point. How you react to that is always probably one of the most important things that you can do. And I know you're looking for some guys to punch, not literally, but figuratively punch back.
Right. And, that's the trick, if you will. That is, how do you pull that rabbit out of the hat? Because once you get that rabbit out of the hat, it never goes back in. And that will stick, that will resonate with our guys. Hey, just because we're down 3-0, or what I would call 3-0, 21-0, doesn't mean it's that game over. It just means we got to tighten down batten down the hatches a little bit. And I think, we're going to see a lot more successes come this week. I don't make any crazy predictions, but I think we're going to compete quite well. I do know that you're going to see the same level of energy and enthusiasm that you saw at Davidson. Score notwithstanding, none of our boys gave up. There was no negativity on the bench. There was no helmet throwing and cussing under their breath. I mean, there might have been a few words that were colorful in nature for sure. But I really think that, as we right our ship, I really believe that, we have some competitive games in our future. And I want the guys to believe that. Like, it's one thing that I believe it because I see the talent on our team. But it's another thing when the players see it and then they act on it. And that's the coach's responsibility, how to get them to see just how good they are and then to act in a very positive way. And we're chipping away at it each week. We chip away at it each week, little by little, for sure.
Confidence is a great thing when you can get players to be confident. It raises the level of play.
And winning is contagious. Playing well is contagious. And so once we start to get a little taste of that, I want the guys to just understand that this can become, an infectious and contagious element within our locker room, within our program, and to embrace that. We got to embrace those successes. So yeah, you're right. Confidence, especially in a young man. I mean, like, there's always this great big facade of bravado that goes around. But at the end of the day, we have to determine whether, is that an eggshell or is that really, a suit of armor, and a lot of times it's an eggshell. But as you build confidence behind that eggshell, it becomes a suit of armor. And that's where we're at right now with our young kids. Just they're an amazing group of freshmen. And I've got a meeting with just the freshmen coming back and letting them know just how much we care about them, how important they are, and just trust a little bit more. Trust a little bit more in the process and what we're trying to do. And, because other programs, there's not a lot of freshmen playing. And so our guys are playing and they're thinking, well, hey, I'm playing. I should be doing this and this and this. And we've got to, educate them and coach them up and say, hey, you're going against 23, 24-year-olds. But if we stick together, continue to trust like we trust in you, we're going to be fine. We're going to work this out. We're going to be okay. And now we're in that phase of the season. We told you that what we've been practicing for, what we've been preparing for, and then as time goes on, that pre-conference is going to be, the vision is to have other teams go, oh, we got to go to St. Andrews. Well, that sucks. But right now, right now, that's not the case, right? Right now, I'm sure Bethel's thinking, not Bethel, Bluefield's thinking, all right, we're at home and St. Andrews are coming off another tough one. And, the only thing I could tell you and anybody listening is there's no one's quit in this locker room. No one's giving up. And they're trusting right now in this process. And so we're gonna continue to do what we believe is right by the kids, by the program, and by the community.
All right, Coach. 7 o'clock, I believe, is the kickoff Saturday night up in Bluefield, Virginia. And big game for St. Andrews. Good luck, Coach. And we'll be talking with you next week. Hopefully, we're talking about some more great things about the St. Andrews Knights. Yes, this has been the St. Andrews University Knights Football Report by Coach Robert Curtin. I'm Mark Plemmons. Thanks for joining us.